Today we're going to replace the exhaust on the Miata. We do have a Catback Manzo system that we got used that actually came with a, what I was told is a high flow catalytic converter up at the front here. So we're going to utilize this one. I'm anticipating some major rust problems. When I did the clutch way back that we never ended up filming, I remember the exhaust looking pretty crusty. What we're going to do essentially is just unbolt the factory system where the header downpipe mates to the catalytic converter flange, and then I want to just drop the exhaust system as one piece and then replace the new exhaust here as one piece. We did pick up a nice new set of wheels. They're a used set of Rays. These ones are 15x8, so they're gonna give us a way better track size than the 16-inch that we had before. We'll be able to run a 205 50/15 tire. These ones have some RE71s on them already for tires. They are used, but we'll be able to get at least a season of track use out of them. They're a great sticky tire, good for autocross, good for time attack, that kind of thing. We're gonna unbolt the catalytic converter. So you can see there used to be a step on this flange here, and that's pretty much rusted off. I'm confident I'll be able to get this bolt apart, but if you go look at the other side, it's so rusted, there's actually nothing left. We may have to either cut that off or do something to try to preserve this flange face here so that we have something to bolt the new exhaust system up to. So, in trying to undo the catalytic converter, we just broke the rest of the exhaust. So this is where our exhaust leak was. There's the only clean part, and that just broke off. There's supposed to be a hanger here. So the rust must have started at the hanger. It rusted the pipe here enough to break the pipe itself. And then it rusted off enough that the hanger eventually just fell out. And then looking back, we're seeing some serious rust on the car. So like there's not much left of this hanger. And holy, look, there's a broken coil spring. You can see the very bottom coil is like hanging out past the seat, and there's a chunk of broken coil spring stuck in the bottom. Here, that's the sway bar mount. The bushing is actually worn right out. I can see right through it from this side. Back to our regular scheduled program. There, it's gonna break. The threaded stud is seized. I think I'll take a grinder and I'll grind off the stud that's there. And then hopefully I can just put a chisel in here and separate those two pieces and not damage this side. The flange on this side separated, but the other stud is still really holding it together. So we're gonna have to attack this with the grinder from the other side. So you can see the stud is still there, and now we have an open hole. So without cutting it in half, we were able to slide it through the hole by just hammering, chiseling, punching, fighting it to get off. So there's a bunch of carnage on the ground here on our blanket of what was the gasket. So I had to cut one side off at the catalytic converter flange, the bolt off on the other side, and then we had to beat the catalytic converter, pry it, punch it, hammer it. We even had to use air hammer to punch out the broken piece of stud that we cut off because it would not come out of there. Just the amount of rust on the threads in the hole, it just did not want to let go. I tried to drill it out. I broke a drill bit off inside there. The angle just is really hard to get at with the way the pipe comes in and where the flange sits to be able to drill straight on it. It turned into a big fight. We cleaned up the side of the flange that's gonna mate the gaskets together so that should seal nice. Eventually, the exhaust up from the catalytic converter forward to the engine is going to get replaced, whether we do a turbocharger or if we just do a nice header system first. In the rear, there's a chassis brace that goes between the furthest back lower control arm mounts that helps that chassis avoid flex. We need to drop it to be able to get the exhaust out that runs above it. So we're gonna take the chassis brace off, but then once it's out of the way, the whole exhaust system should just pop off the hangers, drop down, and then we can swap in the new piece. If there is any rust on the threads, you can work it out by going back and forth, and then adding a bit more penetrating fluid, get in the cracks of the spots that you just freed up.
Every time you hit, it's like rust rains down from other parts of the
car. Just swing chassis brace out of our way instead of risking breaking that bolt. So now all that's left is two hangers. There's one hanger right behind the bend of the exhaust here, and then there's one more right behind the tip over here. So we're just gonna pry those off, drop the exhaust. Okay, so we need to reuse the exhaust bushings or the rubber hangers from the original exhaust to transfer over to our new exhaust. So that's the three bushings. We'll clean these up with just some brake parts cleaner and like a bit of a wire brush just to get the bits of rust out. So they actually cleaned up pretty decent just with some brake cleaner and a rag. Okay, so penetrating fluid also works good as a lubricant. So we're just gonna spray the hanger posts and the inside of each of the hangers to help slide them on. And then also the opposite side that's gonna slide onto the car. Makes it a lot easier if you lubricate it all first. This one and this one. We're cutting this bracket off because we know we're going to be replacing it with something else at a later date. The exhaust gasket itself, I wasn't able to find from any aftermarket source. So I ended up just getting it from Mazda. Mazda has actually started to develop a lot of restoration parts for the early NA Miatas. So a lot of this stuff is actually available from your local dealer. Okay, so now we just need to bolt the catalytic converter to the downpipe. We also just grabbed some new hardware. This is some stuff that I had just laying around, but we want new material to hold everything together because of the weakness in that flange. The gasket actually has one round hole and one oval hole, so that helps hold the gasket in place while you get the exhaust lined up and all the bolts to push through. Oh, these bolts are barely long enough. hanger is actually contacting the PPF, the cross member from the transmission back to the differential. So if we start to get a clunk or a rattle or something, we'll just have to trim the hanger or the PPF a little bit. That's it. We're ready to drop the car down. Hear what this exhaust sounds like. Hopefully it starts. Oh, you know what? It's gonna rattle a little bit because we stole some of the bolts. We got the exhaust replaced on the car. Turned out to be a little bit more of a challenge than we had initially anticipated. There was a couple broken bolts. There was a mounting bracket for that cross brace underneath the car that we had to cut off. We'll show you guys in a later video why we cut that off. We're gonna replace that subframe with one that doesn't utilize it. Exhaust sounds great. We're really happy with the upgrade. It's a little bit loud inside the car, but we'll try to do what we can to kind of dampen that and reduce rattles. As always, if you guys liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks, guys.